Good morning, everyone, and good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Fred Kemp. I'm President and CEO of the Atlantic Council. I'd like to thank you for joining us for this special edition of Atlantic Council Front Page for a conversation with His Excellency, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber. AC Front Page is the Atlantic Council's premier platform for global leaders who are navigating the economic, political, and technological changes that are defining the world we live in. And so that makes it a perfect platform for what we're going to be talking about today. Much of the world's focus this week is set around the international climate action ahead of President Biden's Leaders Summit on climate this Thursday and Friday. In that spirit, this episode of AC Front Page is also part of the Atlantic Council's Raising Ambitions series as we join energy and climate leaders from around the world in increasing climate ambitions. His Excellency is a true world leader in energy and climate and was recently reappointed the UAE's Special Envoy for Climate. I can think of no one better to kick off this week's events on behalf of the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center and everyone at the Atlantic Council. Dr. Sultan, we thank you for being here.
Thank you.
He's also a Minister of Industry and Advanced Technology, CEO of Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, and Chairman of Masdar. And if you don't know about Masdar, it was established in 2006 at the instruction of leadership by Dr. Jaber and others. And it's the most active renewable energy investor, one of the most active and clean tech incubators. It's been an honor for me to visit Masdar and visit the UAE frequently to see its pioneering work in these fields. The UAE has always been a leader in energy diplomacy, and in the face of the energy transition, has also been a leader in promoting the international cooperation on climate. It's also among the 40 countries joining the summit this week. Dr. Sultan is no stranger to the Atlantic Council, and it's always our pleasure to hear from him at the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Forum at the beginning of each year in conjunction with Abu Dhabi's Sustainability Week. We hope to do this, Dr. Sultan, in person next year, but we've also learned through these kinds of meetings how powerful a global audience can be when brought together also in digital format. So it's great to see you again. Before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping notes. Today's discussion is on the record and recorded. I would like to encourage you to engage with the Atlantic Council using the hashtag #ACFrontPage, hashtag #ACFrontPage, as we join world leaders in raising climate ambitions. So let me turn to my first question. Your Excellency, since last we spoke in January at the Global Energy Forum, and that it was held virtually, it was global, it was really a wonderful group of people we brought together from across the world. You have recently convened a regional climate dialogue with 10 Middle Eastern and North African countries, and you were joined by John Kerry, Special Envoy John Kerry, and COP26 President Alok Sharma. Could you talk to us about what the key goals were going into this meeting and what outcomes came out of the meeting?
Sure. Hello, Fred, and I hope you are well and staying safe. And let me thank you for inviting me to join you at this Atlantic Council front page discussion. Now, to answer your question on the regional climate dialogue, which we hosted at the beginning of April, this gathering actually came about very quickly. In fact, we were able in just 10 days to bring together 10 regional economies, plus the United States, the UK, and the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, for a true, meaningful discussion. And this gathering, in fact, did produce some concrete results. We issued 2 specific joint statements, one between the region aimed at raising climate action ambitions ahead of COP26, and one between the UAE and the US, very much focused on a significant increase in renewable energy investments and cooperation. Ultimately, the key takeaways from our meeting was simply this. Progressive climate action is not only necessary, it can also be a true, powerful economic driver. And if we do it right, it can actually put the world on a new low-carbon, high-growth development trajectory. So we need to start looking at the climate challenge as an opportunity. Let me give you one data point that brings this very specific message home. In the same year, when the world's economy was hit by a global pandemic, newly installed renewable energy capacity also set a record. Over 260 gigawatts, representing $300 billion in investment. Most of it came from private capital. This was added to the grid. The bottom line here is that the commercial case for renewable energy has never been stronger. And this is something we should all be optimistic about, and we should very much build on.
Thank you for that, Dr. Sultan. Low carbon, high growth trajectory, looking at climate change challenge as an opportunity. That's a great way to kick us off, complete with that example that you gave, a very powerful example. So the UAE has always been a hub for energy and climate leaders. And this trip was John Kerry's first to the region since becoming special envoy. You can imagine Secretary of State John Kerry going to the region as an early trip. But from your perspective, what are the implications of special envoy John Kerry going to the Middle East on this very early trip in the Biden administration?
Of course, without a doubt, we highly appreciated the fact that this was his first regional visit and to discuss such a very important global topic. I think there are a few ways in which this visit was significant. Firstly, this was an opportunity for Secretary Kerry to see the UAE's climate leadership up close and, of course, in person. We have been living in a virtual world for the past year, but of course, nothing beats seeing with your own eyes and going through the experience really physically. As such, I had the opportunity for taking Secretary Kerry on a tour of Noor Abu Dhabi, which is the largest single-site solar facility in the world. The UAE actually has 3 of the largest and lowest cost solar plants in the world, and we will soon break ground on another one that is even larger and hopefully even more competitive from an efficiency point of view and from a cost structure point of view. Secretary Kerry was also able to visit Masdar City. I know you have been there. Masdar City is Abu Dhabi's clean tech innovation hub. It is also the home for the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, and now it houses the Mohammed bin Zayed University for Artificial Intelligence, the world's first AI research facility applying breakthrough artificial intelligence, advanced technology, and pushing sustainable development. In short, Secretary Kerry got a good look at what we are doing in the United Arab Emirates to promote and invest in sustainable development. Of course, he also got to see what we are actually doing in the broader space of renewable energy and sustainability. And of course, based on a track record that goes back 15 years, he was exposed to what we've been doing and the fact that we've been investing all these 15 years in advancing the renewable energy technology, advancing clean technology, as well as exporting our knowledge and our technologies in many countries around the world. His visit was also significant because it brought together one of the world's largest hydrocarbon producers and the world's largest economy, which is also a major hydrocarbon producer. And this is, of course, a true model of what partnership really means. And through this partnership, we can turn climate action into real, true, meaningful, tangible results through economic cooperation by presenting climate action into or as a true economic opportunity. While the relationship between the US and the UAE is already very strong, this kind of relationship, dialogue, and this type of climate diplomacy delivering tangible outcomes really reinforces our real deep strategic partnership with the US. And finally, the face-to-face engagement that was possible during the dialogue was invaluable in terms of amplifying support across the region for bold, ambitious, progressive, and truly meaningful climate action that will yield real and tangible results.
Thank you for that very rich answer. World's largest economy with one of the world's largest hydrocarbon producers, the strategic partnership. And then at the end, you spoke about the role of the region. So let's drill down on that, so to speak, a little bit more. So looking at this trip and what it says about the role of the region in promoting climate cooperation, let's look at the larger region. What is the role of the region? What does this trip say about the role of the region?
It was very simple. I mean, through the statements generated and the outcomes of the discussions, it was clear that our region is indeed very much keen, interested, and committed to playing a responsible role in helping advance the agenda, the global agenda, in addressing the climate challenge through not only financing, but also through technology, through large-scale deployment of renewable energy, as well as advancing the sustainability agenda.
So looking more specifically at the UAE, and for those who haven't had the benefit to visit the UAE as I have over the years and see its remarkable development, most people would not think that a country so rich in fossil fuels would be such a leader in renewable energy and low carbon energy. So what are the country's plans now going forward for lower carbon energy?
I actually remember back in 2005 and 2006 in the preparations of launching Masdar as a new, true, holistic, comprehensive economic development program. We used to receive all kinds of questions from all of our friends and colleagues around the world. And why would a major oil producing nation proactively seek a key role in advancing the renewable energy agenda? We actually never saw this as a threat. We actually saw it as a true, unique opportunity. Only if we were to capitalize on our deep energy expertise, as well as the long-term strategic partnerships that we have been able to establish with many countries and many partners around the world, as well as the substantial financial resources we have from our energy sector, we would truly become a true global player that acts in a responsible manner in helping advance the energy agenda, also positioning the UAE as a responsible player in meeting global energy requirements in the future. Look, I can comfortably tell you that we in the UAE have a comprehensive plan that leverages our expertise in all forms of energy. And we build on our experience as a regional pioneer in renewable energy and clean technologies and helping advance this agenda and addressing the global challenge when it comes to climate change. For context, it's worth mentioning that alongside our significant domestic renewable energy assets, we have already invested in viable, profitable renewable energy projects in over 70 countries around the world. And we will build on this solid basis to expand investments that make economic and commercial sense in every geographic location, given, of course, that the regulatory frameworks in these destinations supports the attraction of such investments and helps protect these investments. For instance, we have invested in wind projects that have helped make the UK, the United Kingdom, a global leader in wind power generation. We have invested in startup solar projects in 27 island nations. And earlier this month, we signed milestone agreements to bring wind and solar energy to Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan. This list goes on. Basically, we have been very successful at leveraging private and concessional capital to get projects from planning to completion ahead of deadline and under budget. And we are always open to bringing new partners on board wherever we see opportunities. Beyond renewable energy, and as you may know, we are also exploring hydrogen as a zero carbon fuel that is currently in its infancy, but that could become a game changer in the next 20 years. At ADNOC, at the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, we are well positioned to leverage our existing gas infrastructure and commercial scale carbon capture and storage capabilities to leverage and to develop blue hydrogen. In addition, we are exploring green hydrogen through the Abu Dhabi Hydrogen Alliance, bringing together key energy and industrial players in the UAE like Mubadala, Masdar, ADQ, and to work hand in hand with ADNOC. We recognize that the key to developing the hydrogen economy of the future will be aligning supply and demand and developing the value chain, connecting suppliers with customers in key markets. So we are identifying viable international market opportunities and developing a roadmap to create a hydrogen ecosystem, not to serve only the UAE market, but to actually cater for the global market.
I'm so glad you touched on hydrogen and the hydrogen ecosystem. You know, Randy Bell, his team, everyone at the Global Energy Center is really pushing this idea forward and has been from early on. Also, you've given us some ideas by mentioning the wind project in the UK, projects in Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan. I think we're going to have, Dr. Sultan, some really interesting people to invite to our Atlantic Council Global Energy Forum in Abu Dhabi in January. Let me close with a final question, and that really does get to the other hat you wear, which is as leader of ADNOC, of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. And you mentioned this in your last answer in regard to hydrogen. The UAE remains one of the largest producers of oil and gas, and hydrocarbons are going to remain a huge component of the global energy mix for a great many years to come by all the analysis that I hear from experts. So how do you see the role of ADNOC and how it will continue to supply energy to a world that needs to decarbonize, also while upholding carbon goals? So put on your other hat right now as a leader of this company and how you see its role going forward.
This is, in fact, a crucial question. Simply because, as you said, the world will still rely on oil and gas for many decades. Given that reality, producers must make that oil and gas as low carbon as possible. At ADNOC, this sits very high on our priority list. And at ADNOC, we have a long history of responsible production that goes back to our origin as a company 50 years ago. We were one of the first oil companies to initiate a zero gas flaring policy and the first to bring industrial scale carbon capture, utilization, and storage to the region. Such proactive measures have helped make our barrels some of the least carbon intensive in the world. In fact, our crude grade, Marban, has less than half the carbon intensity as the industry average. And we're always looking to improve our environmental performance with a strategy that will reduce the carbon intensity of our operation another 25% by 2030. And of course, with this, I would like to extend an open invitation for all of our partners and those who believe that can add value to our mission in helping position ADNOC as a true global leader in producing the maximum amount of hydrocarbons with the least carbon emission, as well as it being the most competitive.
That's a wonderful answer, and I think a good place to cut this conversation for now, but we'll pick it up again in the future. Dr. Sultan, as many in our audience may not know the role you've played, not just your country, not just the region, but in the world as a leader. You served on the UN Secretary General's high-level group on sustainable energy for all. You received the UN flagship award of 2012 Champion of Earth. It underscores your role. It certainly underscores your country's continued role. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I want to thank you for joining us today, sir.
Thank you very much, Fred, for the opportunity. Highly appreciate it.
And to our audience around the world, thank you for joining us for today's Atlantic Council front page. I encourage you to join us again today and tomorrow as we continue the Raising Ambition series for panels and discussions on the technologies and trends that will shape the Leader Summit on Climate this week. We're all feeling a real turning point of international focus on this issue. And we of the Atlantic Council are trying to do our part by drawing as much attention as we can and bringing leaders to our audience of the caliber of Dr. Sultan Al Jaber. Thank you all for being here, and thank you again, Your Excellency.
Thank you, sir.